it, as I see it, class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom, it's worth it. How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And of course, good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the entire world receiving our signals via the magic of El Internet, formerly known as the ARPANET, created by whom? We the people, now controlled by the billionaires, something that we must mitigate, We're going to talk about a whole lot of stuff today, but without further ado, let's throw it to the studio with El Senor Howard Reynolds and Jack Van Beber. How you guys doing
Well,
this morning?
good morning, Egberto. It is Wednesday morning at the radio, the 28th of January, 2026, and Jack and I are here waiting for a wonderful show. I don't really have any rants today.
You
I'm going to try to
don't.
think of one.
With all
No,
that's
well,
happening.
yeah, I know. I'm watching these idiots try to spin this thing with the murder
Oh
from
God,
the
yeah,
ICE agents. The spin is just unbelievable. Oh, well, he shouldn't have brought a gun to a protest. Well, neither should have Kyle Rittenhouse. We all know how
yeah.
that worked out for us. So no, the ICE murderers are they're out there, and the ICE supporters. I don't understand how anybody can do that. They're not arresting the worst of the worst. They're getting maids from the hotels. How are they the worst of the worst? They're getting gardeners, they're getting domestics. It's like, oh yeah, you're the worst of the worst. This is nonsense, people. Don't you see that? Anyway, Jack has a whole page here that he wants to get in, and I'm impeding Jack's corner here.
All right, thank you, Howard. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, Jack. How you doing this morning, my brother?
I'm good, sir. I'm going to read your headlines and then a little comment.
Yes, sir.
In a world rocked by policy failures and human suffering, this hour unpacks the stark contrast between solidarity and state violence. While Spain moves to grant permanent residency to 500,000 migrants fleeing turmoil and repression, the United States under Donald Trump doubles down on cruelty, withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement yet again and tolerating federal immigration enforcement that has killed U.S. citizens on the streets of Minneapolis. These crises are not isolated. They underscore a global struggle over human rights, climate responsibility, and democratic accountability. Tonight, the host grounds listeners in the facts, uplifts voices resisting authoritarian tactics, and connects the dots between international refugee and domestic repression using a collective demand for humane policy, climate justice, and fundamental civil liberties. All I can say is that's beautiful, Alberto.
Thank you, my
And, and
brother.
and my comment to the people out here is if the people want change, the people have to change themselves, change their consumption habits, become ecologically conscious about the use of their utilities. Like every gallon of water not going down the drain is a gallon saved for the future. Every kilowatt not used means less resources taken from Mother Earth, and every cheaply made, overpriced consumer product not bought means more money in your pockets for survival needs. The truth is the earth is become overpopulated. That's the that's the ticking time bomb that is depleting the world's lakes and aquifers, causing wars for resources. As long as we allow the rich to run things, the more perilous human existence becomes.
Jack, you make an interesting point here that I always think about is the packaging of all the consumer products. Do we really need all that plastic? I mean, that's
Nope.
just more stuff for the landfill, more stuff to get inside of our bodies, the microplastics, because they're already finding that stuff. And I know people are going to say, oh, that's just a hoax. No, it isn't. We have finite resources here on
Science,
Earth,
people, science. Go with the science, not the
not the
politics.
nonsense. Yes. So I just look at this stuff on the shelves and go, do you really need that, packaging? I mean, I would buy something in a plain brown box with no labeling or no anything, just maybe a Sharpie label on it. Yeah, it's not beautiful, but it works. And the box will degrade back into the earth, but the plastics won't. So that's something I've often thought about, and I try to repurpose a lot of things. Um, I've got a tin can project going on. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with all the tin cans. I've thought of several things to do with them. Uh,
Put strings on them.
well, use them for pipe. Well, that's what we do here at KPFT. When I upgraded the Campbell soup cans, everything sounded better. But realistically, I was thinking about taking these tin cans that I get, take the labels off of them, clean them out, which I've done a lot of them already. I'm thinking about just running pipe insulation into them, and stapling them back up. You got the pipe insulation. You've got your pipes are protected from cold or extreme heat. So I'm just wondering about.
Oh, that's pretty ingenious, Howard.
Yeah,
Well,
it
not only
is.
that, I was going to cut the bottom out of them and glue them all together in a long line and make duct work for an air conditioner.
There you go.
So there's a lot of things you can do with this stuff if you look at it and say, how can I repurpose this instead of throwing it away?
You know
And
that's what they did in The Great Escape when they were building their tunnels. That movie.
oh yeah,
Yeah, they used tin cans as ductwork to keep airflow
oh okay,
and a bellows they made.
pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
All right, well, Egberto is chomping at the bit to get his show started, so let's let
Oh,
him get his show started.
look, I was enjoying the conversation, and I was thinking about what I use. I get into trouble with my wife because I collect these peanut butter, the screw-on peanut butter
Oh, the
containers.
caps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I keep the whole. I'm like, I in my office I have a whole lot of these containers because they look so nice. You take the labels off, and it's made just to throw away. And there's something in me don't want to throw them away, right? So
Right.
sometimes I repurpose them for oats, repurpose them to put dry stuff in there. But you keep eating peanut butter and you keep getting new stuff. So you're so right. We have to. We need to do better than just throwing this stuff in the landfills. Because
Yes,
Yes.
it's
we ha-
finite.
we have to
Cheryl
be.
Elkin says she repurposes glass all the time. Yeah, I can see that. But anyway, thank you guys. Buenos dias, mis hermanos y hermanas. Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome aboard Lisa Blair out of Atlanta, Georgia. Gray Zebra, Robert Stublet, Joan Cove, Michael Wigginton. Marnie says, good morning, all PDR people from a 35-degree Charleston, South Carolina. Hope y'all are staying warm. I have my local heater on in here, or localized heater, I guess. Glenn Ryan, my brother from another mother, Mary here in Katy, Texas, Mary Adamski, Zelda Jean, M. Hope, welcome aboard, Mary Fernandez, Lori L. Snyder Sloan. How you doing, Lori? Cheryl Elkins, who's repurposing her glass stuff, says, so happy to be here today. The world seems heavy and cold this morning. Tara and Tally, welcome aboard. And of course, there's Harry Denson out of Missouri City, Texas. Folks, let me start from where Cheryl started. The world seems heavy and cold this morning. Anytime I hear somebody say stuff like that, it really touches me because I know what you mean. Joe from Los Angeles, California, welcome aboard. I know, I fight very hard on the inside. It's a fight all of the times with keeping a positive. I'm not saying a gullible or not saying, try to wear colored glasses, but keeping a positive outlook. In fact, so much so that sometimes when I hear people say, I hope this works, on the inside, at times it is upsetting because for me, it's not about hope. For me, it's what we go out there and do. And every time I see a little something happen where the trajectory get changed, but that trajectory get changed from what we do is something I think to be, propped up and pointed out. I think the change that's occurring in Minneapolis and Minnesota right now, with Bovino getting fired, uh, with uh, with the news media reacting better, it's because of you. First of all, no policy change has occurred yet. Let's be clear about that. Donald Trump hasn't changed his immigration policy. They're working on changing the facade, changing the lipstick on a pig. So our job is not done, but our job is effective. And how effective is our job? Is you have forced the mainstream media to atone in the last several days. They didn't do this on their own. They are too busy hiring Barry Weiss to run CBS, which means CBS is no longer the respected news channel that it used to be. They are busy trying not to get Donald Trump upset by reporting the news as it really is. But the mainstream media got a lesson from the independent media, from the alternative media, from those people in the streets with cell phones who made sure that they would give their data to whomever would take it. And they forced on the rest of us. And we went out there consistently, constantly, and made that difference. They can't kill us all. And that they murdered Rene Good, that they murdered Alex Pretty. They are martyrs. But what they showed was if they could murder those two, they could in broad daylight in front of us all, they could do it to any American citizens. It's not just now about the other. It's about all of us who decide we are not going to follow the president's supremacist ideology. It's Stephen Miller. Recall, Stephen Miller is still running the White House. So while the facade has changed, we have to keep the pressure on. But you know what? We forced the mainstream media to report. We forced many who had their eyes closed to open their eyes. And I'm going to show you a few MAGA in a minute what their response has been. But beforehand, since I have Bruce on the line, let's go to Bruce and then we'll continue the program. Come on in, Bruce.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Hello? Yes. I got a call last night from a friend of mine's wife. I've known this guy for 38 years. He passed away in his sleep. He had terminal cancer. He was a mentor that got me interested in politics. He took me when I got in California in '87, and he started working on me and telling me how things worked. This guy, in his youth, I guess he had to rehab himself and straighten himself out. So when he became a union steward, he started saving people's jobs and straightening them out and following up and having them come to the house. You know, he cared about other people. He hated Republicans. He retired in Las Vegas, and he got sideways with his son, who's career military, because his son was right-wing. I heard that his son called him a month ago and made amends, so I was glad to hear that before he passed. This guy affected literally hundreds of people's lives. He's the one I told you one time would call right-wing radio and pretend to be right-wing, and then he'd twist them into knots, and then he'd start laughing at them. But anyway, Norm Newton passed away yesterday, and he was a giant that affected so many people's lives, including me. I wouldn't be calling you or listening to you today if it wasn't for Norm Newton. He shaped the foundation of my politics. Anyway, I thought I'd bring that up. I'm gonna get off the phone. I'm freezing. I'm on my back porch. But anyway, I had to.
Well,
get
before you go, Bruce. First of all, my most sincere condolences to you. I know what it's like to lose a close friend, especially one that has been your mentor. So condolences to you and to his wife and to all those that he really had an influence on. Thank you so kindly, my brother.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna get off now. Bye bye.
Have a wonderful day. All right, my other brother from another mother, Elon, how you doing this morning, sir?
Hey, very good. I stayed awake for a change. Yeah, I got two quick comments and a question. You know, you speak of coffee all the time, very popular here in the United States, but I'm surprised that nobody has got into marketing in a widespread scale the most popular drink in southern part of South America, yerba mate. So that's just a comment. By the way, friends and I drove to and from McAllister College in St. Paul, Minnesota, for a Green Party national meeting a few years ago. So I was right across the river from where the ice incident happened. Now, my question, and this, I have no answer to this, I just want to throw it out there for discussion or comment. For many years, the dollar was backed by gold as a standard, and instead of being tied to gold, why don't we make a menu of commodities and average them out? You know, food and oil and whatever consumables, you know, commodities, and average those out and then tie the dollar to those as a hedge against inflation. So that's all I had to say.
Well, Elon, I mean, I don't know if you realize how well. Of course, you realize that's a damn smart statement. Let me tell you something, okay? In the olden days, gold was something that held value, right, for the world. In other words, you could exchange. Gold is an intermediary for trading, right? In other words, uh, money, which you can call gold as well, and gold as well, is just used as a temporary placeholder. If I have corn, you have wheat. I don't need your wheat, so I ask you. So what you do is I give. I mean, you give me gold for the corn that I have. I can use that gold to buy something else that I want from somebody else, and they exchange. That it's just a placeholder. Now we got smart here in and I'm using that facetiously in the United States, and we'll say, well, we just use paper, right? And that paper is used to be backed by gold. The gold is supposed to be in a vault somewhere, and that paper is used as the backing. Why do you need that? You need that to hold value, and not only hold value, but to prevent runaway inflation, right? In other words, if anybody could print a piece of paper and say it's backed by, just a piece of paper, then eventually it has no value, because if I need to buy bread, I just go ahead and print a whole bunch of paper and buy the bread, right? So the having a backing stuff is the purpose of gold. Now, when we came off of gold altogether, we played a trick on the world, right? We could print whatever we wanted to print as money. And the only thing that you could claim on that money is that the United States of America, this strong country, that has a great manufacturing, that has natural resources and all of that. So implicitly, those were the commodities back in the dollar, and people looked at those commodities as stable. And we fooled the world into thinking we were the only ones that could pretty much do that, right? And that's why we turned it into petrodollars and all these other things, right? But the truth of the matter is, as time went on, other countries realized that exactly what you said there, Elon, is what Venezuela did to survive, right? It used its oil, its gold, and all of this, and turned it into its value set to be able to stay alive when the United States used the dollar as a weapon to cripple them, right? Unfortunately, the United States crippled a lot of other countries as well who would otherwise have dealt with Venezuela, which would have prevented the collapse of the Venezuelan economy. But in effect, I'm saying,
It's ironic that gold has doubled in value in the last few months.
and here's this, and that Venezuela is one of the largest back in store or holders of gold ore. Think about that. Venezuela is a rich country with not only petroleum but natural resources like gold and many other things. But because of our what we fool the world into believing, they're not rich, they're a basket case. But that's another story. But what you said, I hope everybody heard, because I'm going to tie on to that in another segment that we better start looking at, because people are starting to realize that we've been hoodwinked. So thank you very much, Ilan.
China has more gold than we do now.
China has bought up the gold around the world, and right now they are starting to corner the silver market. I think we kind of discussed that a few days ago. Have a good one, Ilan.
Okay.
All right, let's go to Bobby, line number 1. Come on in, Bobby.
Hi, good morning. Did you happen to catch Conversations yesterday?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
There was a caller named Brian that called in, and I was like, okay, let's see how, because they were talking about the shooting of the nurse, and I was like, let's see if Brian, is going to try to justify this. And sure enough, he's like, well, first of all, he's a nurse. What is he doing carrying a weapon? As if, anybody in the medical field shouldn't, be concerned about their personal safety when walking around the street. Next, he was talking about how, as a licensed firearm carrier, he should have known to what is the term when you back off, like de-escalate. And I was thinking to myself, isn't that the police's job to de-escalate? I mean, they came up to him, shoved him to the ground, and a woman, he's just trying to help the lady up, and they shove him to the ground and then end up killing him. I'm like, so basically he's saying just, listen to your, if you listen to your authoritarian overlords and, when they tell you to put your phone down, just, de-escalate and don't film and, don't, exercise your rights to carry your firearm, then you won't get shot in the back. Like that, does that even, to me, Brian, if you're listening yesterday, you earned your SS stripes. You are a straight up Nazi tyrannus. You belong in the 40s under Hitler, running some camp somewhere. Congratulations, Brian.
Let me just stop you there, Bobby. We don't look. There's. I think people who look at that video and try to justify things, they don't. We don't have to really hit them. They're mentally ill. I mean, I am sorry. If you look at that video and you try to pass it through ideology, you are in fact mentally ill. But it's a bit worse than that. Okay, because these are the same.
Progressive. If those would have been Democrats shooting, I would be just as appalled. I'm not going to sit here and stick up for any party that's doing that. So if you're that brainwashed, yeah, you have a mental issue.
Yeah, it is, and that's what I'm saying. You have to deal with that kind of indoctrination differently. And one of the reasons you see Trump lay down, even with a 37% approval rating, is that he realized he has to keep the Bryans of the world fed. They have to maintain, he has to keep them fed. Look, the only answer you need to give is Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse went with an AR-15. He's underage and he killed two people. Two, this guy, Pretty, murdered no one and never held his gun for others to see. I mean, that it's a mental illness if you do not see that, and I don't think you need to waste your time on that. But that said, um, I think the good thing about it is there are those who have actually come around, and there's going to be that 30 something percent of Americans that are simply there's some uh, they for their own survival they have to see through colored glasses because they can't believe they've allowed themselves to be had for so long. And for their own mental protection, they have to find some way to feel that no, Trump didn't screw me as badly as I thought Trump did. They did, or he
I
did.
wanted to
So
read something real quick.
yes,
It's from George Orwell, 1984. He says, "The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears." And, it says that basically what it's saying is obeying the party requires denying direct sensory experience, not just lying, but genuinely unlearning what you know. The demand becomes a kind of mental discipline. The ideal citizens train themselves to accept contradictions without discomfort. The party's real power isn't surveillance or force alone, it's ability to control reality by controlling belief. The act of rejecting your own memory and perception is described as the ultimate test of loyalty. So, Brian,
boy,
you did it, man. You're there.
thank you for that,
That's all I have
Bobby.
to say.
Thank you, Bobby. You have a wonderful rest of your day. And that is one of the reasons that protest and going out together like we have around the country is so important, right? Because it is easy to conform. Conforming is easy. Just accepting is easy. All those Nazi sympathizers in Germany weren't really Nazi sympathizers. They were just okay. All the people that we like to call racist here in America or anywhere else, it's simply about conforming. And when people get upset because I speak to everybody and they call names or whatever, I tell you something. When I'm speaking to somebody one on one, and I'm looking at them eye to eye, and they are looking at me, and we are going through each other's humanity when we don't have externalities. When you get that person one on one, and you can start feeding that person. Let me tell you, uh, Glenn and I met the person that you spoke about, and in speaking to him, right, when he finally decided to go, I can tell you one thing. One of the reasons he decided to go is the fear of getting convinced, the fear of having everything that he once believed turned completely around. And that's how it is with everything. I mean, even as a progressive, and all the progressives listening to us right now, we are so enthralled into what we've learned from our inception here in this country that it is hard to change. When I speak about capitalism, often some of the biggest pushbacks that I get, not here necessarily on KPFT, but when I write at Daily Kos, the preeminent liberal progressive rag there is. And I bring up things like socialized medicine. And I bring things up like the extractive nature of capitalism. Good progressives attack with the same right wing talking points on that particular issue. Because that's how you are reared. That those are the things, and that's why we have to have grace with others. Because changing all your belief systems from what you thought it was is not an easy thing. I always self-deprecate when it comes to my transition from being a homophobe to a gay rights activist. My transition from being a sexist to being a women's right activist. Because my thing is where I'm from, where how I was reared made me those things. And changing from that is not easy. Making that change is not easy. It takes a lot to change everything and how you were reared to believe all the way around to what reality really is. Now, that fight within one's own psyche, and that's what we're going through now. Race is a great tool, and that's what's being used right now. People will say, "Hey, well, look at some of the ICE agents are black, or some of the ICE agents are Latinos." Those are the greatest. Those particular agents are the biggest supporters of white supremacists because of that self-hate within themselves. That's why it's okay for them to do the job. But that's another time. Gonzalo is on the line. I haven't spoken to Gonzalo in months. How you doing, Gonzalo? All right. Line one, Gonzalo. Will be in a second, I think. Yeah. How you doing, Gonzalo?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing fine. Talk to me, my brother.
Yeah, I was thinking that if the Nobel Prize was given to a troublemaker instead of a peacemaker, Trump would have got it by far. But, unfortunately, he got it in the wrong way, thanks to Corina Machado. And I think it was a bad move, but probably she didn't have other choice to please Mr. Trump. And I think this debate with the nurse that was carrying a weapon has put dynamite on the issue that we have in, let's say, blue states, because now I don't want to hear anymore the Trumpists about, this is a leftish move to disarticulate the MAGA agenda, blah, blah, blah. Well, this is a different issue. And I think it's really worrisome. I had a friend who called me from Canada, and she said, "You're still welcome to come back here because I think you are close to a civil war." And that's all I have to say.
Well, let me just say about civil war, right? People talk about civil war, civil war, civil war. No, we're not close to a civil war. We don't have what it takes to have a civil war. That we have complete. Look, Americans have pretty much been neutered. Okay, even we are. There are a lot of paper tigers running around. We're not in the days when people would pick up arms and shoot their brothers and sisters and all that kind of stuff. That's not what our civil war is going to look like. Our civil war is going to look like just how it seems right now. That's what it really looks like. We are already, and I hate to say it.
I still believe. Yeah, I still believe in democracy, and I totally agree with you. I think we are still at a point in which people can discuss different points of view in a very civilized way. We don't need to go to extremes.
No. And I find that when you speak with people, even those loud, boisterous folks, and you can actually speak to them and get them down. The problem is the peer pressure issue that you have to work with. And that works in every field, right? For those men that are sexist, and you talk to them and you talk them down and they are on the same plane with you. When they go to the bar with their friends, they think they still have to act out the way they do. Same thing with your racist friends, right? They sit down and they've changed on the inside, but the peer pressure prevents them from being able to react a certain way. I've had discussions with folks in a coffee shop, and we leave on the same page and we shake hands and hug, and it's like, Man, I'm glad to have had this talk with you. And wow, not that I see the light, but my God, I can see that now, right? And then you go into that same coffee shop a few days later, and that person is with a group of friends, and they see you walk in, and the fear that you see in that person's eye that says, "Oh my God, I know we were in the same plane, but please don't come and talk about what we talk about." You can read their faces and see it. And it's like, not to worry. I won't bust your bubble. I won't. But the peer pressure thing is so powerful. And that's why I said with the protests that we're having right now, Gonzalo, it's so important because a positive peer
Yeah.
pressure, I'll take it. And if we're doing positive peer pressure issues, that wipes out a lot of the negative. Thank you, my brother.
All right. Have a good one.
You too now. Jane V says, I asked a MAGA why she was unable to question even one thing Trump does or says. I let her know I always am open to questioning progressive leaders and think for myself. She is starting to question Trump. That is a magical thing you did there. You did something that I have in my book. How to talk to your right wing relative friends and neighbors. You let them answer the questions, and what usually happens is the answers to the questions ultimately turns out to be the right ones and the ones that you are thinking about as well. 9 out of 10 times you're going to find that when you walk them through but make them answer the questions, it's amazing how close they normally come to your point of view. But then what happens a lot of times is as they realize what is happening, they immediately transition, lock up, and try to change the subject. But again, Jane, that is exactly what has to be done. And also, when something hits them, like when Rene Good and uh, Preti, Alex Preti got killed, the most important thing that happened there is other people saw within themselves. Just looking at the pictures without any sound, not knowing what this is, they saw within themselves what could happen to them. Because I know a lot of folks don't like to speak about white privilege and that sort of thing, right? But when you see, implicit within your mind, within the mind of many, and this is not me, this is me actually saying what I talk to thousands of people over the years, thousands and thousands of people, and you hear it, and when we go to conferences and we get into those areas where people are talking as well, people to come out and say, I honestly didn't think that could have happened to me. A lot of progressives would come out and say, I didn't think that could happen to me. Yes, they're out there protecting others, but they never thought that could happen to them because they didn't and never understood that white supremacy had little to do with race or who you are or what you look like. It always has to do with maintaining power for a few, maintaining power for a few, and having the appendages who actually did it for them. And when somebody could see within themselves, oh my God, that could happen to me. And even if it's accidental, suppose I was walking down the street and that irrational ICE guy didn't realize that I was a MAGA. And the fact that I could accidentally die, it suddenly means something. That's what a lot of folks don't get. Derek, line number one. How you doing, Derek?
Hey, good morning, Alberto.
Good morning, my
I
brother.
just want to say, man, good morning. You sparked something, a good thought for me, and I'm going to really look into it. What would a civil war look like today in 2026 in America? Because I'm looking at it like this here, man. It's you're gonna have to come at it from a whole another high tech way of thinking now. Because when you said that, because what's the name, Consuelo,
Yeah,
Gonzalo,
Gonzalo,
like that.
Gonzalo.
Yeah, consolidate. Yeah. It kind of sparked that thought to me. What would that actually look like? Because of the high tech means and ways that we are doing right now, and I mean, it's going to have to come from a whole nother different point of view and perspective that most of the supremacists who really are walking around, they the only one that's thinking like that. Why?
Yeah,
How would
and
you defeat something like that?
the thing about it is this: there are very look. We like to play up the militia in Michigan or the militia in Waco, Texas, or whatever,
Right.
but they are small. Even if they are in the tens
Yes.
of thousands or so, it's such a small amount of crazy people like that, and they are not very brave. Okay, these are not brave people. These are damaged people. Okay, these are people that
Yes.
feel left out, Derek. These are people that have been convinced that they are the rejects. And if you don't see that executive that is really causing the damage and really killing people, you don't see them with guns. The Civil War is not going to be done with guns. We are already in a civil war, and we are
Thank
losing
you.
it
Yeah.
to
Yes.
you know and the Civil War is between the wealthy and the appendages of the wealthy, the people carrying the water for the wealthy, because they don't carry the water themselves. Remember, they are incompetent. The wealthy folks are incompetent because everybody else does their work. They're served,
Yes.
they're driven, they're flown, they're baked for. They don't do anything. Okay,
Right.
they're
Right.
just parasites, and we
Right.
are made to believe that there's something they have, which the reality it is something we all have, right? And but the
Right.
mentality is what has to change. We are already in civil war, and what we are fighting for now is the peace, and we have to
Yeah,
look at
because
it
the
that way.
battle is definitely for your mind. That's
Right.
exactly what it is. And unfortunately, if you can ever think to go back and look at that 60 minutes it was like a little small report.
Hmm.
However, they went to the backwoods of Oregon where most of those little bitty paramilitary
Right.
people, white supremacists train at, and for the most part, those are bitter soldiers who were working from the war, working in the war at some point in time. Those are the ones that be over those type of groups. That's all I gotta
Eggs.
say, dear brother. Thank you so much for the enlightenment.
Thank you very much, my brother. You have a great rest of your day. And yeah, what Derek says is true. I did see the 60 Minutes. They've done several stories where they go into these countries, and a lot of times, I feel for these guys. I mean, a lot of folks are like, oh, they're such terrible people. They are the result of what our plutocracy has done to people. And it's by design, because if they are fighting others, they're not fighting for what's really harming them. Jimmy, line number two. Come on in, Jimmy.
Morning, Roberto. Yeah, there's lots of problems up there in Minneapolis. The ICE shooters who killed Renee Good and Alex Prey, they should be charged with murder, cold-blooded murder. They had no reason to shoot those people. And Germany had their Gestapo. We have our ICE. ICE needs to be shut down. That group is a bunch of bullies, and they're harming our society. They're killing innocent people, and they need to be charged with murder. Our country cannot allow that sort of lawless system to go on.
The,
And
the
also,
good. Go ahead, Jimmy.
also, uh, Trump needs to stop having the power to put tariffs all over the world any way he wants to. He goes up and down based on some ideas about these countries, and that should be a job for Congress. The Supreme Court needs to take away that tariff power that Trump is using. It's way too much for power for one person to be able to put tariffs on a whole countries like that.
Absolutely right. And you know what? That's the reason why everybody needs to go out there and vote. And remember, the purpose of ICE and CVP running around blue cities right now is to intimidate. The reason that they've changed to 47 days with the expectation of training thousands of ICE agents is around election time. They are going to be putting these guys in strategic locations for voter suppression. And it's not going to be an outward voter suppression. It's going to be people saying, I don't want to have any encounters. I might as well stay home. This is all strategic, and nothing is going to change. They displayed what they will do, what they can do under the Trump administration with no repercussions. They've shown that they can do it. We have shown that we won't tolerate it. The thing about it is we have to show a lot more. The protesters have to show a lot more. We have to shut them down now because they are gearing up. Look, 3,000 of them, Jimmy, are in Minneapolis, St. Paul, in that area. 3,000. The St. Paul, the Minneapolis Police Department has 600 people, 600 police officers. There are 3,000 ICE agents running around the area. Come on. We understand what's happening right
That's
here.
also costing our country a lot of money to pay those 3,000 agents, put them up in hotels and all that. That's costing us a bunch of money for no good coming from it.
Well, it's not only for no good reason, Jimmy. It's actually costing us. It's costing our economy. It's costing a lot. But anyway, Jimmy, I think anything else you want to say real quickly?
We had a feature on Channel 8 last night about Ari Wiesel. He wrote about the Holocaust in Germany and so forth, and then they had a feature about the Holocaust after that and how people in these countries were doing the work of the Nazis. They were rounding up Jews and killing them just because they were Jews. It was horrible.
Right. There you go. Thank you for that, Jimmy. Thank you for that, Jimmy. I got to go. I want to answer something from Lee the Bearcat in Austin. I normally don't, discuss things that are, just out of whack. But Lee the Bearcat just says Venezuela is suffering due to leadership. And to Lee the Bearcat, where are you getting your news from? Have you looked at news from all over the world? Or are you just listening to what we feed you here in the United States of America? Venezuela is not suffering because of leadership. Venezuela is suffering because we had a blockade on Venezuela. Venezuela is suffering because we decided to sanction Venezuela because we didn't want a democratic socialist country with all those natural resources, giving it to the people. I know that's not the story you hear here. It's not the story you hear how terrible Hugo Chavez was. I suggest you learn, as opposed to being a parrot of what we hear over here, I suggest you learn what has been done in Venezuela and see what the reasons were for the Bolivarian Revolution. Whether you like it or not, you should go ahead and research. And if you want to see what dictatorships do to a country, we just have to stay home because that's what we're doing right now. You talk about dictatorship, that is what we're living through right now. So we don't have to even go to Venezuela. As Stadion says, I saw on TV Venezuela had Congress in session, debates president making discussions and announcements. Yeah. And notice that Donald Trump didn't try to get rid of the left wing government. And there's a reason why. This is not about, they don't give a damn about ideology. This is about what is the most effective way to get oil out of Venezuela. And since he was going to go ahead and re-enable getting oil from, you see, you have to understand this. He's making enemies with Canada, our largest supporter. 4 million barrels of sour oil comes from Canada every day. I repeat, 4 million barrels of oil comes from Canada every day. You can't be in a area where you're getting Canada mad, where Canada is starting to make arrangements with China, who also wants oil, who's also buying Venezuelan sour oil, while you have refineries on the southern coast of the United States that is there to process sour oil. If somehow we get a reduction in sour oil from Canada, and we have the China building uh, platforms in the Gulf of Maracaibo in Venezuela, the United States get left out. Like I mentioned yesterday or the day before, we are getting triangulated because of our idiocy. We think that everything depends on us. And this is what I'm telling you, Leader Bearcat. Go deeper. Don't just parrot what you're being told. Go deeper. Our refineries don't work well with the oil we produce here in Texas and elsewhere, which is good quality oil. It's what's called light crude. We process the nasty stuff from Saudi Arabia, the nasty stuff from Venezuela, and the nasty stuff from Canada. And by the way, that nasty stuff produces a lot of good stuff when refined. And they make a lot of money from processing that nasty stuff. You got to understand what's going on and not just be simplistic in your thought. We have to understand what's going on. We have to understand what's going on. Anyway, the video that I have is too long for the amount of times that we have left. So if anybody else have any calls that you want to come in real quickly, give me a call, 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738. By the way, thank you for the calls today. Those calls were great. It gave me a chance to say a whole lot of things that needed to be said. But then again, I think I have the best listeners in the world, bar none. Suzette says, welcome aboard. Suzette says, excellent sources tell me 3 plane loads of ICE agents landed in Des Moines, Iowa on Monday night. 2 other sources said they saw ICE vehicles on the south side of Des Moines, Iowa. The area where they were seen has seen many Asian and Hispanic residents. So they're going to go into a red state. Iowa once was a blue state, into a red state, and go ahead and make a mess. Let's get Patrick on line 1. My brother Patrick, I haven't heard your voice in a few days. You must be pent up by now.
Yeah, it was cold, and I was dealing with the weather. I wanted to help you. I wanted to help you out. Canada, those are tar sands, which is what produces bitumen, and we won't ever see that again because China has figured out how to use bitumen to create asphalt.
Right.
And so they don't even have to process it anymore. They're building ships for it right now, and they're getting a much higher price for it.
Well, you know what? I just learned something. I hadn't read that one. Thank you for that, brother.
Yeah, so we helped 2 competing economies get further ahead of us. As far as Venezuela goes, even if it was leadership, that's not our responsibility, nor should it be.
There you go.
No, it wasn't leadership at all. And the idea that an American citizen thinks that we should be able to tell somebody else what to do with their resources is absolutely disgusting.
Lynn, you know what? You're absolutely right. But Patrick, I got 2 calls I got to do in 2.5 minutes. So let me do this real quickly. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you. Let's go to Terrence. Come on in, Terrence.
On the subject of Venezuela, the United States is preparing to invade it.
Okay.
You hear that? We're preparing to invade Venezuela. Because last night, a trainload of military vehicles moved south through Houston. I saw it. Military vehicles on a train heading to the port of Houston.
Okay.
They're planning to invade Venezuela.
Well,
have a good day.
All right. If they attempt to invade Venezuela, they have there will be a lot of dead American bodies. Let's just put it that way. Invade Venezuela, there will be a lot of dead American because I tell you what, the guerrillas in Colombia, the guerrillas in Peru, the guerrillas, they're chopping for it. So if we want to go get Americans killed, go into Venezuela and see what happens. Anything else, Terrence, real quick?
Well, I'm predicting it. I'm predicting it because from what I saw last night.
Well, let's see what happens, my brother. You have a good one, okay, Terrence?
All right, have a good day.
You too now. Bruce, come on in real quick. Got about 30 seconds, Bruce.
Yeah, Alberto, you there?
Yes,
Hello?
I'm here.
Hello? Yeah, if there's thugs outside my voting place, I think I'm going to design a hat that says MAGA, and when I walk by and wave good morning to them and go vote, I'll flip the hat over, and it'll say I voted Democrat, and then I'll tip my hat to them again.
Oh, wow. I love you, Bruce. Hey, you hear that? For those that are scared, put on a MAGA hat and go vote. All right. I love that. I love that. I love that. Anyway, let me throw it to the studio.
Oh, nothing here. I did it again. I pulled the mic off the stand. Jack's got something, though.
Okay. Ice out for good. LaPorte, Texas, Saturday, January the 31st, 2026. 105 San Jacinto Street, LaPorte, Texas, 77571. Harris County and LaPorte officials will be there for your safety. And Ben from Deer Park, call me on the studio line.
Thank you very much, Jack. Jack is our resident activist. I love that. I love that. Anyway, folks, look, I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for your ears. Thank you for your eyes. Thank you for your intellect. I mean, like I said, I got the smartest listeners out there, man. And we learn together, and that's how we keep things going. The magical thing is learning. And we all have a constancy to learn. Anyway, you can reach me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright.com, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Watch our finished rest of the show at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what?